If you are asking why Classroom of the Elite have become so popular, I could confidently say that the reason behind the series' success is none other than Volume 3. We could argue that Volume 1 is not really that good, and Volume 2 is even worse than it, but objectively speaking, Volume 3 is still one of the best volumes of Classroom of the Elite ever published. After 2 volumes of introduction and build-up, Volume 3 finally introduced a system that will become one of the most important plots in this series, which is the special exam. Not just a regular special exam, Volume 3 presented the island exam that instantly gave a very different tension and challenge. Since we had been told that it's forbidden for the students to leave the school, this volume gives a very refreshing change of pace. With an unknown environment, a sudden challenge, and unspoken competition between the 4 classes, Volume 3 really brings the story to the next level. There are at least 3 reasons why Volume 3 became so memorable: the exam, the antagonist, and finally the protagonist himself. The introduction of the special exam finally brings us to the long-awaited 4-class battle. And if you think the introduction of the special exam is not that important, then you should see the difference between each class's class point before Volume 3. There is around 900-point difference between Class A and Class D, and if Class D could only get around 80 class points for each written exam, it will be impossible for them to catch up with Class A. That's why the special exam, where they could gain a ton of class points on an equal ground with the other classes, really made the difference for Class D. The exam requires them to spend a week on the deserted island with 300 class points to survive. Although the exam looks simple, it turns out to be effective at causing a lot of trouble, especially for Class D. The way they are unable to cooperate, and the distrust between each member of the class are very satisfying to read, especially when Ayanokoji ends up with Karizawa's panty. Those scenes told us that they are still just regular high schoolers in the middle of the jungle, and their pitifulness and hopelessness make it way better when Ayanokoji finally takes action to save them from their inevitable doom. Next we have Ryuen Kakeru, who up to this day is still the best antagonist the Classroom of the Elite series has ever had. We have seen a bit of his scheme back in Volume 2, but that was just him playing in the background, while Volume 3 finally gives Ryuen a chance to take the real action, and he didn't disappoint us at all. Ryuen is the very first antagonist we have in this series, and he is absolutely perfect for the role of evil guy. Right after the rule was announced, Ryuen immediately showed the readers how he is different compared to the others. Instead of playing inside the rules, he mocked them and chose to fight on his own terms. He manages to think outside the box, playing like a fool to deceive everyone, but secretly he has everyone playing on the palm of his hand. Ryuen is a dictator who has all his classmates under his control, and that specific detail brings a threat that we have not seen before in the previous 2 volumes. Not only is his character as a delinquent with a foul mouth refreshing to have, but also his ruthless and heartless method to achieve victory really told us how serious he took the competition. And even though he was placed in Class C, he clearly has everything under his control, which makes Class D even more pathetic than usual. Ryuen's introduction creates a high standard for the class leader, and when Ayanokoji finally takes action to counter him, we immediately know that all the mystery that has surrounded Ayanokoji ever since the first volume is not just an edgy teenager's imagination, but the real deal. Volume 3 is the first volume where Ayanokoji actually tries to win the competition thanks to Chabashiro blackmailing him. Although he seems passive as usual, the last part of the volume reveals that he is actually planning everything behind the scenes. The last part of the volume literally told us that Ayanokoji, who seems like a harmless person, is actually a cunning bastard full of distrust. He didn't take Ryuen's bait to think that Class C has given up on the exam, and he didn't trust Ibuki despite his sweet talk. But he believed Horikita will eventually fall so he could take advantage of her. If Ryuen himself is already an amazing character, Ayanokoji took it to the next level, and that's how he created a wave of popularity that changed Classroom of the Elite forever. Needless to say, the anime also has a lot of contribution to this popularity, especially the last scene between Ayanokoji and Horikita, where Ayanokoji literally admits that everyone is just a tool for him, and he didn't even consider them as friends. Even though I don't really like how that scene has a negative impact on this series, it's undeniable that the tool monologue is one of the reasons why Classroom of the Elite could become so popular. In conclusion, Volume 3 is really a game changer for the whole series. With the victory of Class D, the 4-class battle was finally set in motion, and Ryuen finally put his attention toward Class D and Ayanokoji. It creates a momentum that will eventually bring us to more and more good quality volume, and become a butterfly effect that slowly changes the course of the story to the volume that we know today.